If you produce music from home, then you know that the vocals are the most important thing in your music production, yet they're one of the most challenging things to get right. This is an entire masterclass that I have recorded that's going to take you from A to Z to making sure that you get emotionally honest performances while also making sure that your voice sounds the best you've ever heard coming out of your speakers. This is a framework that I developed after working with a Dove-winning music producer, doing this on commercial releases as well as my own music. And this framework is going to be something that you can use time and time again to know that you're getting the best out of your vocals. This framework is called the V.O.I.C.E framework and is part of my emotional editing for singer-songwriters course, which I'm giving to you for free right now. This course is going to unlock new ways to hear your voice, to get the best performances, and then to emotionally edit it to make sure that it is mix ready. And if you want the additional resources that come along with this training, go in the link below, click on that, and then you can sign up for free to get the full course version of this video laid out in course format with the additional worksheets. You get some practice sessions. The song that I'm working with in the video, you can take and then work alongside the video with, as well as a fully produced track that you can use for practice mixing. There's also some bonus videos on how to do this in Pro Tools and in Logic that are specific to those DAWs in that course itself. So if you want to use a more traditional course format, go in the link below and download that for free. Now, I know this training is going to transform the way that you approach your vocal recordings. And the only thing I really ask in return is that you share this with someone that can use it. And please go in the link and check out my music on Spotify, follow me, and then maybe put one of my songs in a playlist. This voice framework is what I do for my own music, and you go check out the results for yourself. But really, I wanted to share this with you because this is something that I had to travel 8 hours away for, spend thousands of dollars to be able to be in a studio to learn this and then be able to do this on professional recordings. This is the way to do it. So sit back, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy emotional editing with singer-songwriters. Welcome to Emotional Editing for Singer-Songwriters. If you've ever doubted your voice or you found yourself stuck with the emotion you know you want to convey, but you just don't know how to get there, well, you're in the right place. Now, this isn't just a course about editing, like comping or tuning. This is a framework for falling in love with your voice again, or maybe for the very first time. By the end of this course, you won't just have a great vocal track that you love, but you'll have a repeatable process and a creative workflow that will allow you to record and release with confidence. You'll learn to edit without overthinking, how to tune in time without losing the soul and authenticity of your performance, and trust what you feel more than what you're seeing on the screen. We're gonna learn how to take off our engineer hat and put on our artist hat and keep our artist hat on for majority of the process. We wanna move into our emotion and be able to communicate that through our vocal performance so it connects with our listener. Because the best vocal performances aren't the cleanest, they're the ones that connect. Throughout this journey, we're gonna work through my voice framework. V is vibe first, where we're gonna define our emotional North Star, and this is gonna guide us throughout our journey. O is for optimizing the performance, because a great edit starts with a great performance. I is for intentional editing, where we're gonna learn how to edit our performance without killing the vibe. And C is for clarity through sweetening, because we wanna do some additional processing to the vocal to make sure that it really stands out. E is for emotional quality control, to ensure that everything we did up to this point is still on track and it conveys the emotion and it's ready to ship. Each step builds upon the last, so you'll never question where you're at in the process. The framework is your map. So this is a space to explore, to refine, and to reconnect with what makes your voice powerful, or just to connect with your voice for the very first time. And don't worry about being perfect. Stay present, stay curious, and commit to finding a version of your voice that makes you feel something. Let's go make something unforgettable. Welcome to phase 1, the V in the voice framework, vibe first. Before we lay down any vocals or touch any tools, we have to ask ourselves an important question. How do we want this song to make someone feel? This is the compass for everything else that follows. Because the truth is, most artists mess up their vocals well before the mix. And this is because they chase perfection and have no direction. Vibe first is all about claiming the emotional intent of your song before you even hit record. It is the first step to editing because you have to actively choose what direction you want to go in. Because when you don't define your emotional target, every decision feels like a guess. You overthink, you over-edit, and you'll lose the thread of the performance. But when you lead with feeling, suddenly your session will have purpose. Your ears will know what to chase. Your edits will become about truth and not correction. And that's why this phase matters. We're going to define what your vocal is really trying to say, and we're going to anchor that energy in from the beginning. In this phase, you're going to define your emotional North Star and set up a DAW that protects your momentum and focus. And while there's no recording or editing in this phase, you don't want to skip it. This is getting the soil right for your song in making sure that our emotional North Star is aligned so that all of our decisions will support the emotion behind our vocal. Let's begin. Before we jump into recording, comping, tuning, we need to answer one question. How do you want the song to make someone feel? Because the truth is that your production is going to fall apart when you start thinking you need to be perfect over the feeling you're trying to convey. When you take off your artist hat and put on your engineer hat and start chasing after what is technically good, all the emotion is going to get lost. And yes, you're going to learn some awesome tricks within this course that are technical in nature, but if you learn it and just go through the motions, you're going to over edit and you're going to lose out on all the magic that we're trying to capture and deliver to our listener. And it's not because you're not good, it's just because you haven't defined what good should actually feel like. So remember this, editing is not about fixing, editing is about revealing what is already there. So in this lesson, we're gonna define the emotion that your vocal is meant to carry. And we're not gonna do this in like a mood board, just meditate and conjure up the vibe kind of way. We're gonna do this concretely. So think about the feeling you wanna convey to your listener. Do you want them to dance? Do you maybe wanna just hit them in the heart? Maybe you want them to go out into the woods and contemplate life. Just think about that feeling, and then we're gonna go find songs that match that feeling, and then that way we can reference back to it as we move forward. One of the songs that I like to reference is Tonight Tonight by the Smashing Pumpkins. Now, Billy Corgan's vocal delivery in this is very raw, it's very earnest. There's no doubles, there's no background vocals, which is pretty crazy considering it's a huge arrangement. But he goes from breathy to powerful to delicate to aggressive, and he can even do that in a phrase. And he's not a perfect singer. However, if a perfect singer were to have sung that song, I don't think it would have been as big of a hit as it was. So it's that kind of emotional honesty that I'm looking for in my own vocal performances and edits. All right, so here's what you're gonna do. Go and create a playlist, call it Vibe Reference. Go find some songs that really make you feel something. They don't have to be in your genre. We're just gonna get a little list and then we're gonna choose one to dive into. When you listen to that reference, don't analyze the mix. Listen to the vocal delivery. Where do they get loud? Where do they get quiet? Do they push the emotion or they hold it back? Is there a breath, a crack, a moment that really connects with you? That's what we're trying to tune into, because that's what we're trying to pull out to be able to put into our own performances. Now remember, we're not trying to sound like this artist. We're not trying to edit to be this artist. We're just using this song as an emotional compass. You're using their delivery to remind yourself this is what it feels like to connect. So your action step is this: create your Vibe References playlist, put about 5 or 6 songs into there, then choose one that really resonates with you, and then download the worksheet to use that to dive deeper into the vocal performance. And then we're gonna use that as our emotional North Star. Now don't skip this. This is not prep. This is the beginning of the editing. So go find that North Star and let's go create something unforgettable. Most artists mess up their vocal edits before they even start because their DAW is an absolute mess. Too many plugins, unlabeled tracks, way too much going on. And when your session's chaotic, your decisions will be too. And this isn't just about being tidy, it's about protecting your momentum and your emotional clarity. So in this lesson, we're gonna set up a separate DAW session just for editing. You'll move faster, you'll think clearer, and if you miss something, it's easy to go back. All right, step 1 is to create your tracking track. We're gonna wanna start with creating a single audio track and name it Tracking, and then select it as a mono format. There may be situations where you wanna do a stereo format if you have a dual output microphone. Very rare, so stick with mono. And I recommend 5 to 7 takes because it gives you plenty of options without fatiguing your voice. Now, quick note, we aren't placing these vocal takes on their own separate tracks. These are gonna be versions within one track. This is gonna keep your session organized and clutter-free. However, this may look a little different depending on what DAW you use, but the concept is to have multiple tracks within the take. Then still on the same track, we wanna create 3 more versions, and we're gonna label one comp, another one cleanup, and consolidated. Comp will be the best takes assembled into one cohesive performance. Cleanup will be where we edit our fades, do some breath removal and basic tidying up. And then consolidated is the final consolidated vocal edit. All these versions remain on your one tracking track to ensure clarity and easy session management. Step 2 is we're going to create another audio track, and we're going to name this one Tuning Timing. This separate audio track is going to be where you're doing your timing and tuning adjustments using Melodyne or your preferred pitch timing plugin. By placing this step on its own dedicated track, you're protecting your original vocal versions if something goes wrong or doesn't feel right. It's easy to return to your tracking track and recopy your comped or cleaned up versions without losing previous work. Quick note on Melodyne is you have to transfer in your audio. Once your audio is transferred into Melodyne, edits done on the track itself will not be heard because everything is playing through Melodyne. And step 3 is going to be creating 2 more tracks. We're going to create a subtractive sweetening track and then a subtle tone shaping track. Subtractive sweetening is going to be removing unwanted noises, clicks, and distracting sounds using more destructive plugins like Isotope RX. And subtle tone shaping is going to be add subtle analog warmth and character to make your vocal feel more natural and musical. Both these processes can be destructive once applied and committed, so having them on separate dedicated tracks allows you maximum flexibility. If you overdo it, you always have a quick way back. Then step 4 is creating an emotional quality control track. And this will be your final review stage. Here, you'll listen to the audio with every effect already committed to the sound, and you'll be simply assessing if the emotional delivery feels authentic and ready for final export. And step 5 is going to be creating your instrument track. And this could be a piano, guitar, or your rough mix. You need something to reference while editing vocals to ensure your vocal fits musically and emotionally within the context of your song. And once you have your emotional editing template set up, you can save it as a template. And now this template becomes your emotional editing workflow foundation. And over time, you'll refine it by adding specific plugin settings or chains, making future vocal edits even quicker and smoother. So here's a recap of the workflow. You have your tracking track, where you're gonna do your recording takes, your comp, your cleanup, and your consolidated track. Then you'll move that consolidated track to your tuning and timing track, run it through Melodyne, and then do any timing and tuning edits you need to do. Then we're going to move that committed audio to the subtractive sweetening to do any noise reduction and cleanup. Then we're going to commit those effects and bring it into the subtle tone shaping to add analog warmth and subtle EQ and saturation. Then we'll commit those effects and bring it into the emotional quality control track for musical reference and editing context. Remember, the purpose of this clear and organized setup is to protect your emotional clarity, momentum, and creative decision making. You're building a safe space where your performances and emotional edits can shine through effortlessly. Now you know how to set this up in your DAW, but if you want a head start, I created ready-to-go templates in Luna, Logic, and Pro Tools. If you don't use those, no problem, just follow the steps and you'll be gold. You set it up once and save it forever, and now this is your safe space for a fearless performance. Welcome to Phase 2, the O in the voice framework, optimize the performance. Now your studio might be a place of pressure, a place where you self-critique more than you create, where you record, you go back, you listen, you second guess, and you wonder if you have what it takes. Well, this ends today. In this phase, we're gonna shift our mindset from a recording stage to a performance stage. We gotta remember, the performance is what drives the song. If we don't get the performance right, no amount of editing is gonna make you connect a song with your listener. When you treat your studio like a stage, your voice reacts differently, your body reacts differently, the emotion flows more out like a story. You become more in the moment and less like you're trying to record a perfect take. Optimizing the performance means creating conditions that support the expression. We're not trying to get one perfect take. We're trying to create a safe and intentional workspace that allows for creative expression. When you finally align your energy with your workspace, no longer are you gonna have an engineer hat on trying to get the perfect take. You'll be able to put the artist hat back on and really get into the moment and enjoy the process. In this phase, we're gonna learn how to warm up the body, how to get ourselves in the mindset to perform and not critique. We're gonna record full emotional takes fast, fluid, and fearlessly, and we'll create vocal options that we can trust as we move into the edit. This is where raw, honest performance begins, so let's dive in. Your home studio may not feel like the most inspirational place right now, and for most artists, there's a love-hate relationship with it because it eventually just becomes a place where you become the most self-critical of yourself. You record a line, you rewind, you listen, you question yourself, and you repeat that cycle. And again, you're taking off your artist hat and putting on your engineer hat, and then you become way too self-critical and you lose all of your self-expression. But today I want you to start seeing this a little bit differently. This isn't your recording space. From now on, you're gonna treat this as your stage. Because when you show up like it's a stage, something in you will shift. Your voice will show up differently, your body will get into it, and the emotions will flow out way more naturally. So this session isn't about editing or even capturing any takes yet. It's about reframing your environment and prepping your energy so when it is time to record, you're not just ready, you're alive in it. And here's why this matters more now than ever. In the digital streaming age, where music is a lot like content creation and you need to get on a regular publishing schedule, every vocal you record could make it onto your release. You're not just recording vocals. You're performing something that's permanent. So if you don't warm up to your emotional body, you're gonna stay in safe mode. You'll play it small and you'll overthink it. And that is what we do not want to do. We're not here to chase the cleanest performance. We're here to chase the purest performance. So we're gonna activate your whole system, get you back into performance mode and not perfection mode. Again, artist hat, not engineer hat. Just like an actor before a scene, a dancer before the show, you deserve that same ritual. First thing we want to do is just move it out. We just want to make sure our body is loose. You can just do a little bit of bouncing. For me, my neck is really tight, so I like to do neck rolls. And it's good to get your neck loose because obviously it's where your voice is coming from. Do some shoulder rolls. Do a little bit of jumping. Turn your neck a little bit. Just make sure you're feeling nice and loose, especially if you're sitting down a lot. For me, I know I get a lot of tension in this upper part of my body. That tension is going to make your voice feel restricted. It'll sound closed off, less open. Then we can just hum, just to open up the vocal cords, loosen them up a little bit. I like to put the tongue on the back of the two front teeth and just go, just right there in your nose area. Nice and gentle. We're not pushing it. Then you can try shifting your voice down a little bit into your chest. Then if you can, up in your head a little bit. Just do that for like 5 minutes just to really warm up the vocal cords. Then you can do some other types of vocal exercises. Just blowing through your lips. You can even scale up or down. And then once you start to feel a little loose, you can do some emotional wordplay, play around with your voice, think of a lyric in a song, and then just sing it in different ways. Try it breathy. So let's say, you are so beautiful. Or you can try it with your chest. You are so beautiful. Or in your nasal voice, you are so beautiful. Head, you are so beautiful. Just play around with it, try different things with it. Just kind of get yourself into the mindset of your performance. This is where you break out your emotional North Star worksheet, take a look at it, refer back to your reference and internalize it and start to really get an idea of how it is you want to perform this song on stage. So this warm up is all about fun, even though it may feel a little goofy. It's about waking up the artist in you to get you into a place where you perform without permission. So here's your assignment. For the next week, do this warm up, but don't even open up your DAW, don't record, just do the warm up and start playing around with different ways to use your voice to try to perform like you're on stage in your home studio. This is to train your voice to remember how to tell a story even when no one is watching. In the next lesson, we're finally gonna hit record, but right now, dim the lights, light a candle, and then put your audience into your mind and ask yourself, what would I sing if I knew exactly what my audience was looking for tonight? Then sing it like that. I'll meet you in the next lesson where it's time to capture the real thing. This is it. You've warmed up your body. You've connected to the emotion. Your DAW session is set up, clean, clear, and ready for feeling. Now we press record. Not to try to hit the perfect take, but to try to hit a take with feeling. We're gonna record full emotional takes, start to finish, not fragments, not pieces, whole performances that we feel when we listen back. And remember, when you hit record today, you are on stage. So that means no stopping mid-take. You can't listen to your take after you perform. And there's no judging while you're performing. You're here to tell the story, not to evaluate it. When you sing start to finish without interruption, something magical is gonna happen. You'll stop obsessing, you'll start flowing, and your voice will begin to lead you. You'll get out of your own head and you'll really start to embody the performance. It's a lot of fun. All right, so let's set this up right. We have our DAW session, we have our different take folders. We're gonna shoot for 5 to 7 takes back to back without stopping. Make sure your mic is level checked, your monitoring is clear, and you're in an area where you're not gonna be interrupted while we are doing this process. So here's a sweet spot strategy for your takes. Take 1 is just a warm up. Take 2 through 4 is exploring tone, your flow, and emotional exploration. Takes 5 and 6, just go all in. And take 7 is just a wild card. Just try something way different. Maybe try to hit notes you don't think you can actually hit. Just go for it, unreserved. Remember, you're not trying to capture perfection. This is all about capturing emotional options. Later, we'll comp these all together to make one emotionally powerful track. If you have a place where your voice cracks or you stumble on your words, just keep going. That may actually become the moment that hits the hardest or sets you up for a moment that you wouldn't get to otherwise. Between takes, take a breather, hydrate, shake it out, come back and do it again. Let this feel more kind of like a jam session than it is a chore or like you're trying to record the perfect vocal take like your life depends on it. This is not that. This is exploration. This is supposed to be fun. And this is how you're going to get the most out of your vocal performance and how you're going to set yourself up for the greatest success later down the line when you're learning the next stages of emotional editing. Here's your task. Record 5 to 7 full takes of your song. Don't judge it. Don't stop. Just record it like you mean it. And when you're done, just walk away. Let the takes breathe. Let your body rest, because next we are going to return to these tracks and listen to them, not with a critic's ear, but with an artist's heart. And remember, a great recording that connects always boils back down to the performance. So do this as much as you need to get that take that feels right. If you can't get it in 7, that's okay to take a break and come back and try it again, because this is going to set up the rest of the course and get you that vocal that's going to emotionally connect with your listener. So here's the moment of truth. And this is where a lot of artists get stuck and give up. You got the recordings, and now you might be wondering, did I get the take? And you might be even thinking, why do I hate these? That spiral happens when you start to listen like a technician and not like an artist. So in this lesson, we're going to be flipping this approach to how we internalize what we just did, and we're going to learn how to listen for emotional impact. As you listen back, ask yourself, do I believe this? Do the lyrics land? Do I feel it? That's what we're here for. The things that you shouldn't be listening for are, was I pitchy? Was my timing a little off the pocket? Or just the general colors a little dark? Is it a little too dynamic? That is not what we're focusing on here, because that's what we're going to be fixing in later modules. So here's how to listen without spiraling. On your first listen, just let it play. Don't stop. Don't analyze. Just hear it. On second listen, you can start to color code certain things that you like, that you don't like. Maybe what you like you can do in green, what you don't like do in red. That way you have some visible representation of your track that you can go back to. And here's one more trick that can really help, and that is passive listening. Play the takes while you're doing something else. Have it running in the background. Don't have it on earbuds or anything like that. Just let it run. Do something, clean, move around, stretch, sip some tea. Just take in the songs casually. And sometimes your most honest assessment of what you did is going to happen when you're not fully paying attention and overanalyzing your tracks. Let your body decide what lands and what doesn't land. Another way that you can assess your tracks is by using the Goosebumps scorecard. You can use this by marking a 1 to 5 for honesty. Did it feel true? Energy? Did it carry weight? Emotional lift? Did it move you? Don't overthink this. Just allow yourself to make a selection, and then later you can add up the score, and then you can rate your takes based on this emotional Goosebumps scorecard. And here's where this process becomes extremely powerful, is that this is your feedback loop, not just for the takes, but for the song itself. If a lyric isn't landing, if a melody feels off, if your delivery just isn't quite matching the emotion, take note of it. Don't judge it, just observe it. These are little clues into the song itself that you may need to rethink, maybe rewrite, and then go back to phase 2.2 and then redo the whole recording all over again. This isn't just about selecting, it's about feeling and sometimes rediscovering your most emotionally honest version. So quick story. I used to hyper focus on my vocals and I would obsess over all the little details. And then one time I decided just to release a bunch of acoustic music and I did it pretty quickly, but I did it with vibe. And one of those songs actually got picked up by a video game. And I had a lot of people reaching out to me about that song and how much it meant to them and how it connected with them. And when I was recording that song, I was pretty close to not even releasing it or doing it because I was so self-conscious about what I was creating. So this is your permission to allow yourself to move through this process, because this again is going to be where a lot of artists fall off. If you find yourself over analyzing and thinking you have to go back and do a bunch of re-recordings, I would highly encourage just to move forward with what you have and see where this process takes you. And then if you get to the end and it's still not feeling right, you at least know what is possible. Then you can go back and redo this song, or you can just start a new one afresh. So here's your task. Listen to all your takes without stopping. Mark the emotional moments that hit or don't hit, and then use that Goosebumps scorecard to rank your best takes. Don't comp yet, just map out the emotional landscape. And remember, you're not looking for perfection, you're looking for truth. And we're gonna continue to sculpt that in the next lessons. In the last lesson, you found the moments that mattered, the lines that gave you chills, the ones that felt true, even if they weren't technically perfect. And now we need to sculpt those moments into something that is cohesive. We're looking to build a vocal that not only sounds good, but feels like the performance. Comping is emotional curation. And the way that you approach it will either bring out the best in your vocal performance or it can make it forgettable. Our job here is to create a vocal performance that carries the story from start to finish. As you get ready to comp, now is a great time to reference back to your Goosebumps scorecard and then list out those tracks in the order of which you rank them from best to worst in your DAW session. As we comp, we're gonna go section by section, starting from the verse onward. We're not gonna cut these sections into pieces. We're just gonna choose the best section from each take and make that as our first pass on the comp. I recommend starting with the top 2 to 3 tracks, move quickly, ask yourself, does this convey the message that I'm trying to convey? Does it have the feeling in it that I'm trying to convey? And if it feels like it, just put it in the comp and move on. We wanna move quickly with this and get this first comp pass done as fast as possible. We don't wanna overanalyze it. We wanna work from our gut. So remember, don't rush this. Don't be too surgical. When you're done with your first pass, let it be, take a break, come back with fresh ears, and then do a listen through test. Just listen through it and you may actually have your take. You may also find that a lot of what you were choosing was from one specific take, and you may not really need a comp at all. You really just need to use that one take. We don't need to Frankenstein together all of our takes to make a super comp. We really want to stay away from that as much as possible. And this is why we did multiple takes and we did all that legwork before we started recording. So that way we have really good takes to choose from. However, there may be things within the sections that are popping out at you that you want to change. This could be a single word. It could be the way you held out a note. And if that's the case, then we will want to go into the takes and take out those specific sections and put it into your comp. Now be aware, if you do this, there may be some timing issues because you're taking from 2 separate takes and you're now trying to stitch together phrasing from multiple different takes, which could have some slight variations. So be aware of this, but we will fix this in a future module. So remember to use your ears and don't get too crazy with the comp. Take breaks, come back and do the listen test, specifically the one where you are wandering around the room, doing something else and listening casually. When I do this test, I'll find that the things that are bothering me will stick out. And if nothing is sticking out, that means it's good to go and I can move forward. Remember, perfection does not create connection. Intention does. This comp is about finding the take that feels like you, not hiding the best parts of you. So here's your action steps. Create your comp, then take a break, come back, and then listen to it with fresh ears. If it feels good, move on. In the next modules, we will deal with some cleaning up, tuning, some timing to fix any of the little details around the performance itself. But right now, trust the comp. Welcome to phase 3, the I in the voice framework, intentional editing. Most people think that editing is about fixing mistakes, but it's something else entirely. Editing is about revealing emotion, not masking imperfections. This is where your raw comp is going to become a beautiful sounding vocal, not through overprocessing, but through intentional choices. Intentional editing is knowing what to touch and what not to touch. We're not trying to overproduce your vocal here. We're trying to keep it raw, emotional, and authentic. So we're gonna go through 3 stages, one of cleanup, tuning, and timing. These are all gonna be done subtly to make sure that we preserve the raw emotion of your vocal and the story you're trying to tell, while keeping it competitive and distraction-free. You'll come out of this phase with a vocal that feels alive, and this is the section where students have their biggest breakthrough moments. By the end of this phase, you're gonna be blown away with what you've created. Let's get started. So the good news is you're past the hard part. You've performed with emotion, you have a vocal comp that moves you. Now we just gotta ensure that nothing gets in the way of that. So we're gonna do what I call the emotional cleanup pass, which isn't about fixing anything, it's about removing friction without changing what's working. And this part is critical. We're not doing anything destructive to the waveforms. We're gonna do some light cleanup editing, because in the next phase, we're gonna start tuning the vocal, which in my opinion is one of the most destructive things you could do to your audio. And we wanna make sure that it stays transparent and we don't introduce any artifacts from processing before we get to the tuning stage. So let's reframe our goal. This is not about perfection. This is about maintaining and protecting the clarity of emotion within the vocal itself. We're gonna be removing distractions, not the character. If there's any clicks and pops, harsh breaths, this is subtraction, not sterilization. So for this pass, you're gonna wanna use a good set of headphones as well as some compression, because that's gonna bring up all of the noise and you'll be able to hear the things you need to get rid of easier with the compression and on headphones. And don't worry, we're gonna walk through some emotional cleanup pass, and I'm gonna show you what to look for and what we're editing out. But again, mindset's key here. Don't edit with your eyes, edit with your ears. Listen and only remove the things that are distracting. Don't let the waveforms or anything else deceive you. Trust your ears, trust your body. That's gonna be your best editor. All right, so we have our comp track here, and we can see we have a bunch of different clips that we have copied and pasted onto our comp track. And now we gotta do some additional cleanup to ensure that we have everything ready to go for the next stages of our emotional editing process. First thing I wanna do is put on a compressor on the track. Any compressor will do. And the reason for the compressor is that we just wanna be able to bring up all the quiet parts to make sure that we're not introducing any double breaths or any clicks, that everything just stays clean. The compressor will help bring those things out. The settings on the compressor don't matter. Just make sure that you're actually getting compression. Pour out like one. And you're good to go. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and just Command C, copy, hit Command V to paste. So what I like to do is expand the waveform in Luna. That's Option Command and then bracket. That way you can see where your breaths are and where your ending constants are, because we don't want to cut them out, but we do want to get a tight cut up to that point. And another thing you may notice when you're going through this is that you may have cut off a breath when you copy and paste it onto your comp track. There's no worries there. You can pull out the take. You still have everything in the original file because copying and pasting is non-destructive to the file itself. All right, so we're gonna go through and do a cleanup of all of the beginnings, the ends, and the stuff in between. Very simple. I just hold Command and drag. The reason I'm holding Command is because right now I have this on Snap Grid. You could turn off Snap and not have to do that. And then just go through, highlight up to the breath, and then just cut it out. And again, if you're not sure where the breath is because of noise, just take a listen. Right. That sounds right. All right, now that we have all that cleanup, we're gonna go through and do our fades and crossfades to ensure that we don't have any unwanted clicks or sudden drop-offs in audio. When it comes to contained clips like this, it's very easy. You can just highlight the clips and then hit Command F. And if you wanna go through and do a listen through to make sure that the fade is not affecting the beginning of your phrase or the end of your phrase, you can do that. However, I find if you cut before the breath and you give a little bit of room on the end after the consonant, you should be fine. Now, when you needed to use multiple clips like this to put together a section, we're not going to want to do just the command F because we need to go in and do crossfades to ensure that there's a smooth transition between the clips. So we can start at the beginning and just add our fade. And then over here, we're going to do a crossfade. So we have to make sure that we are aligning a spot that makes sense. And that should be in between phrases, like right here, where you have two spots where it's silent. However, I'm seeing this right here, which doesn't look like a breath. You can see that there's little bumps in the audio form. So we're going to take a listen to what that is. And it's this little mouse smack. So I don't like that. And I feel like right now is a good time to try to get rid of that. And what we can do is just see if there's a breath that we can use from this audio clip and then see if we can naturally have that go into this audio clip. So right here, looks like we'd be able to do a crossfade. Then we're going to do a really tight crossfade here, just so we're not having a noticeable fade in between the breath and into the vocal. You just want that to be really tight and transparent. Let's hear if that works. Beauty, my love, and now the dawn. Perfect. We have another edit right here, which very hard to see, but we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to try to find a spot to have this crossfade into, which looks like I could just do it right here. Take a listen to that. It's guarded. It's guarded. Perfect. All right, so we have that clip good. We're going to just put a little fade at the end here. Move on. We have just a clip here, fade, clip here, fade. So here's an interesting issue that I liked this section and then I didn't have anything after it. So I must have done this section isolated because I wasn't happy with one of the performances that I had. So I just went in and redid this part by itself. However, this is not going to be a natural transition because this is where it looks like the breath starts, but I'm still in the middle of holding my note here. And then I don't have anything over here. So we're just going to try getting it somewhere right around here and just see if we are able to capture that breath. Oh, now the dawn, now the dawn. And to me, that doesn't work because you're not getting the breath. Let's zoom this waveform down a little bit because you have this long sustained note and then I go right into this chorus and there's no breath in between. That's just, to me, a bad edit because there's just no way I could do that in real life. In this situation, we're going to have to go back into our comps and find something that can either replace this whole thing, just this part, or just this part. So let's highlight up to about here and just go start listening. Oh, now the that doesn't sound bad. Let's try that there and take a listen. Let's see if we can, this will work. So again, we're going to try to find a spot in between the notes that we can put a tight crossfade into. Let's just check to make sure that sounds good. Oh, now the dawn breaks and the shadows flee away. Oh, now the dawn breaks and the shadow. Now the dawn breaks and the. Oh, now the dawn breaks and the shadow. Now the dawn breaks and the shadow. The energy's a little bit different, so I'm just gonna see if there's another take I can work with. See what this sounds like. Oh, now the dawn breaks. Nope, not the right energy. Maybe if I pull this up to give it the breath. Oh, and now the dawn. Oh, and now the dawn. Oh, and now the dawn breaks. Still feels a little weird. Oh, now the dawn breaks. Oh, now the dawn breaks. That actually, to me, works. Okay, so we figured that out. All right, so this is a great example of having to really finesse an edit. And these are the kind of things that might start popping up as you're really listening into the performance. And it's those little things where you may have two phrases together, but then the energy doesn't match. So you're trying to find ways to get your energy to be consistent as best as you can. So we have that fixed. Now we just got to make sure that this flows together. And so you can tackle this one of two ways. You could just bring this all the way to where you have that little space, but then we may not like the full performance that we have, and then we're gonna have to try something else. On and the time for singing has come. Oh, now the dawn breaks and the shadows flee away. You are. All right, so that to me works. The other option that we could try to do is find something in the sustain note that would connect. Sometimes that works if you're holding out a note and your vibrato's moving. You can find little spots to where you can punch this in and you won't notice it. That's not the case there. So maybe try on this part, the O. Still not very natural. So you can try that out if you really want to start getting nitpicky, but I'm just going to go ahead and just choose this take here and move on. Oh, now the dawn breaks in the shadow. And so here there's still a little bit of a mismatch of energy. It feels like it backs off a little bit. And this is a very subtle thing, but what we can try to do here is cut this, which you can just do by hitting B. Make sure we fade that back because we don't want that cut there. And then go up here to this clip gain and just bring it down a little bit. I'm looking at these two waveforms right here, and that looks pretty good. Oh, now the dawn breaks and the shadow. A little bit up here. Oh, now the dawn breaks. Oh, now the dawn breaks. It's still not perfect, but I'm thinking in the context of the song itself, you're not going to notice. Oh, now the dawn breaks. All right, yeah, I'm okay with that. And this is another good point of why you're doing this on headphones with compression, because it's going to bring out all those little nuances and you're going to make much better edits. And once you get it back into the actual production, it'll feel good again, but you want to make sure that it feels right solo. That's the key. All right, so now we're just going to finish up doing those fades. Come check this out over here. So we have a breath. Right here, I'll say connect. Take a listen. It's fine by me. Fade. Fade. And now we're just going to go ahead and do fades here, fades there. And there's one more issue you can address here, and that is subtle timing issues. But I'm not talking about going in and doing any type of time stretching. This would be moving the clip itself. If you notice that you might be slightly dragging or you might be too fast, you can kind of do a gut check here by zooming in and looking at the waveform and seeing if you naturally rush or if you naturally drag. Generally speaking, it feels more laid back, gives less anxious energy if you're behind the beat than in front of the beat. But this is going to be depending on what kind of song you're doing and what kind of feel you're going for. Let's listen to this clip and demonstrate. When I first gazed at your autumn eyes, you sipped your latte. You can see here, it's a little bit fast. So let's just see what happens if we take the clip and just pull it behind a little bit. I'm kind of looking at like this right here, this right here, this right here. Now let's listen to it. When I first gazed at your autumn eyes, you sipped your latte. That's a little too much, but you can hear how it now feels a little more laid back. When I first gazed at your autumn eyes, you sipped your latte. compared to where it was. When I first gazed at your autumn eyes, you sipped your latte. Maybe a little bit of just splitting the difference there. When I first gazed at your autumn eyes, you sipped your latte. Compared to when I first gazed at your autumn eyes, you sipped your latte. When I first gazed at your autumn eyes, you sipped your latte. That feels better to me. So you can go through and just listen phrase by phrase and do global nudges like that to try to get it to sit better without doing anything destructive to the vocal itself. And if it feels better, but there's still little pieces in there that just don't feel quite right, well, we can address that in tuning and timing, which is coming up next. And then once you're done with your cleanup, highlight all of your clips, Command C on Mac, and then go up to Consolidated, hit Command V to paste. And then we're going to consolidate our clips into one track. All right, so now we have our fully consolidated track. I'm going to turn off the compression here because there's no processing done on this track. We can again just do a Command C, come down to our tuning and timing track and paste it. Now we are ready for the tuning and timing module. So here's your action step. Clean up your file, then do one last listen through on your headphones with the compressor, so that way you can hear any little pop or click that may be hiding in the file. And then we're going to consolidate that take so you have the single file that's going to be ready for tuning. Remember, this isn't about fixing your voice. This is about protecting its integrity for what comes next. Let's move forward. All right, so if you're enjoying this video, please leave a comment and let me know what some of the biggest breakthroughs have been for you so far. Share this video with someone that you know could use it. And don't forget, you can get extra goodies and resources all for free by going in the description, going to that link, and signing up for the course. And then you can have it on an actual course platform and get all the additional goodies. And again, it's all free. So go check it out. All right, this is the moment where things are going to start to feel real. The comp is done, the cleanup is done, and now we get to transform your vocal, not into something that's perfect, but into something that is undeniably clear. And let me reiterate this. Tuning is not about fixing your voice. It's about supporting your performance. Your voice has the emotion in it. It has all the secret sauce. Now we just have to align it with the expectation of what the listener expects to hear, because your voice is under the microscope when it comes to recording. And little tuning deviations can be a distraction. So we want to make sure that we fix that to maintain the integrity of your performance and make sure that there's no distractions. When tuning is done right, it won't sound corrected, it'll sound confident. And that confidence is what's going to take your vocal from almost there to absolutely magnetic. So here's the philosophy. If it helps the emotion land, tune it. If it kills the vibe, don't tune it. That's the filter. You're not editing for approval. This doesn't make you a worse singer to tune your vocals. You're just editing for alignment, for what you felt in your performance, and to what the listener is going to hear. And I'll say this up front. This is the moment in the course where most students are going to have their biggest transformation moment, because you might still feel like your vocal feels a little off. It's pitchy, and you may still kind of cringe a little bit when you hear it. Well, after tuning, that's all going to change, and you're going to sit back and be blown away by what it is that you've produced. I know that for me, this was my big aha moment when I learned how to tune with emotion, and it changed everything for my music. And I know it will do the same for you. But remember, this isn't the final step. Tuning is powerful, but there's more steps in the emotional editing process to take it even further. So now we're going to jump into Melodyne, and I'm going to show you what to look for in a vocal performance and how to edit so it stays transparent and it stays authentically you. Let's go. All right, so now we have our consolidated track on our tuning track. Now we're going to go into our inserts and pull up Melodyne. So the first thing we need to do is get our vocal into Melodyne. So the way we're going to do that is hit transfer, and then we just need to play our vocal from start to finish. All right, now that everything's transferred in, you can see your vocal here in Melodyne, ready for edit. Now, quick note about Melodyne is you have your blob, which is going to be the volume of your note. Then you have this line, which is your actual pitch and vocal performance. And over here, you have your piano roll, which will show you the notes in the key in light gray. But you're going to want to make sure that it gets the key right, because it doesn't always get the key right. It's saying this is C major, which I know is not true. It's actually an A major. So I'm just gonna fix that real quick, just so I can see the notes when I'm tuning. So Melodyne is a very comprehensive editing program, and I don't want you to get bogged down in the details here. When we're tuning vocals emotionally, we wanna do it note by note and manually. It's a very tedious process. It's not fast. We're not just slapping on a plugin and having a tune and we're good to go. We're gonna go in and make sure it's done as transparently as possible. But because we're doing that, it takes a lot of the complexity out of learning the program itself and instead learning how to look at your vocals and know how to correct it in a way that's gonna maintain the emotion and the performance that we've already infused into it. So up in this toolbar, this is gonna be your 80/20 of Melodyne. You have the edit mode, which is gonna be what you're gonna stay in for most of the edit. Then you have this note assignment mode, which I don't go into that often. The only reason why I would go in here is because Melodyne put one of my notes in a different octave. And so you can go in here and just fix that, which you may have to do. And it looks like it did it quite a bit for me. So I would go through here and clean that up. But other than that, I don't really go into that mode. When we're tuning vocals emotionally, there's really only a few tools that we are going to use. It's going to be the main tool, the pitch tool, and the note separation tool. I'm not going to really touch the format tool or the amplitude tool or the timing tool in this module. The main tool allows you to select notes, move notes. You can do some timing on notes. This little line right here that connects the blobs, and you can move this to change the cut line. And also the way that I'm pulling up the magnifying glass to zoom in and out is by holding Option Command. Then with the pitch tool, does the same thing, but when you have pitch tool enabled, it also gives you these little connection pieces. And what's cool about this little orange line is that if I go up here, you can see how the cursor becomes a little cross. If I hold Option, I can actually change the way that the note slides into the next note, which can be really helpful for keeping certain edits transparent. If you have it really sharp, then that can be something to where you get a little bit of that auto-tune effect, which we don't want. And then the note separation tool, again, just separates the notes. And then these three buttons right here are all macros. And again, we're not gonna deal with macros because we wanna go in and be very intentional and thoughtful with our edit to make sure that we preserve the emotion. So two ways to move through this session is you can either use the function keys to select your tool, or you can right-click to select a tool when you're moving through your session. I like to use the short keys just because it's faster. For the sake of this module, I will just right-click. One thing with the function keys being assigned to these tools is that you will have to make sure you go into your settings and enable the F1 to work without holding down function. So that way you're able to select the tools fast and efficiently. So the first thing that we want to do is take this cut tool and cut out all of our scoops and our drifts. The reason for this is because that's where all the character lives in your voice. And we're really looking to only tune the notes you're trying to hit. And where you want to make your cut is where the note starts to level out. Like that right there looks like where I start to hit the note. Everything else is moving up into that note. I'm going to cut out that drift. This right here is a note as well. So we'll cut that. And as you start to cut, you will see that the blobs can shift a lot. And that can be an indicator that there is multiple notes within the blob itself that you want to cut out. But before I go cut crazy, I want to do the obvious ones. And then as we start to listen, if something bothers me, then we can go in and cut more. But I want to try to keep this as non-destructive as possible. And then you can take a look right here where you have a lot of these little lines. This is a consonant, so it's going to be like your ch. And Melodyne knows this is a consonant, so it will not tune and introduce any kind of weird artifacting. You can also use this note separation line to further refine your cut. All right, so now that we have our cuts done, Let's just listen to the vocal and hear what the melody is doing. Now you can double click in the editor and it'll play just the audio within Melodyne. It won't play the entire track. Your hair, it rolls like the golden hills. Your hair, it rolls. Your hair, it rolls. Okay, so you can hear that I'm trying to hit this C sharp here. The natural inclination is to just double click this and snap that to grid, which is essentially hard tuning, which I don't recommend. What I would do is manually adjust it by holding Option so you can move it and just gently nudge it so that line is getting up at that C sharp. So we got where it's flat. And now we have that little it's just getting up there, but everything else around it is staying natural. I am going to cut this part right here because it sounds like I'm trying to go, your hair. Move this over a little bit. Your hair, it rolls. So there's this, it rolls. So I'm going to cut this and this. I feel if I just touch this. So these notes right here, we'll see how that sounds. Your hair, it rolls. Okay, so we hear that little step. It's your hair. Your hair. So this is something where we want to just gently nudge this up. Because if you look at how I sang the note, it drifts into it. But if I push this note up, now I'm creating a hard drift. So I want to push this note to mimic the same movement I just did. You could also just select both by holding Shift and then moving them both together. Your hair, it rolls. So it sounds way more natural. Your hair, it rolls. This note right here is giving me a little bit of that flat feel too. So I'm just going to push this up. But I'm looking at this down here. Again, this is just note volume. We want to look at the line. This is the pitch. Your hair, it rolls. Your hair, it rolls. That feels much better to me. So just as a reminder of where we started. Your hair, it rolls. Your hair, it rolls. See, it's very natural. Even though we did a bunch of cutting, we didn't do that much tuning. So this one's interesting because I really drift down. Rolls like the gold. And it may be fine to leave it alone. All right, so I'm going to push this note up. This note. Like the golden. This is flat. So this is one of those situations where you would probably want to highlight both and push them up instead of just taking the one. I'm going to see how far I can take it to get this to hit up at that C sharp, but it might be too much. Golden. That's all right. Let's try it pulling both up. Golden. That feels better. Another thing to do is things are noticeably sharp or flat and you're pushing things up to where it could become unnatural. That's where you could use this little connector tool to smooth out going into it and out of it. Like the golden. Compared to like the golden. Like the golden. So here it kind of rolls a little bit more instead of going da, so I can make it more natural as well. Golden Hills. And this is interesting here because I have a vocal that starts flat and then goes sharp. And if I were to try to tune this to relative pitch, it would just push this area sharper. So we're going to go to that note separation tool, cut where it goes sharp, cut where it goes flat, and then we'll adjust. And again, don't be confused by the blobs. Look at the line. That is critical. Golden hills. All right, so now let's listen to this vocal. Your hair, it rolls like the golden hills. Compared to where we started. Your hair, it rolls like the golden hills. Your hair, it rolls like the golden hills. You see how it just all snaps into place. It looks like we've done a lot, but we've done very little adjustments to make sure that we're preserving the natural feel of the voice. We're just hitting the notes that we need to hit to make sure that the melody lands, but we're not taking out the character of the vocal. Let's hear it against the full track. Your hair, it rolls like the golden hills. Compared to your hair, it rolls like the golden hills. Your hair. So this right here, I'm gonna push this up a little bit. Your hair, it rolls like the golden hills. And now what I want to do is just show you some things you may come across and how to address it. You may have sections like this where Melodyne just didn't separate the note. You can always go in and separate. And I would try to avoid making a lot of cuts. So when you have something like this, instead of making another cut there, just pull that cut line over. One last note that I do want to mention when it comes to vibrato. I don't have a wide vibrato, but if you're someone who does have a wide vibrato, if it's like this, when you're tuning the note, you want to see where the center of the vibrato would be, and then put that and use that imaginary line as where you'd want to settle it on the note itself. So that way the vibrato is going up and down the center of that pitch. If you try to like hard tune it, you're going to stay flat or sharp depending on how your vibrato is. In this case, you would want to cut it. And that will keep your vibrato in tune while not losing the vibe of your vibrato. So that's tuning. It's a tedious task and it's a skill in itself, but take it section by section, go in and just cut out all the scoops, the drifts, the things that are in between the notes, and only adjust the notes you're trying to hit at first, and then do any other minor adjustments and tweaks to make sure that your vocal is sitting with the track and it just feels awesome. And every vocal is different and they come with their own sets of challenges. And as you begin to tune your voice a lot, you'll start to recognize the patterns and how to address issues. And there are some edits that may happen that sound unnatural that do require some timing adjustments, but that's what we're gonna get into in the next module. All right, so now that you've seen how to tune with intention, here are your action steps. Import your vocal into Melodyne, and then take a listen through and only tune the notes you're trying to hit. Leave all the scoops, the bends, the vibrato, leave all that untuned to make sure that it still stays undeniably you and it stays transparent. Don't hard tune your notes, really listen to your vocal and only touch the things that are distracting. After that first pass, listen again and make sure you didn't miss anything or tune to the wrong note. Then take a break, come back and listen to it a third time. And then if there are distracting vibrato notes or scoops or bends that you want to manually adjust, then go for it. But just be aware, once you start doing that kind of editing, you may start to get into less transparent tuning and you might start to be able to hear the tuning in your performance. And just remember, your voice isn't broken, it's beautiful, and there's nothing wrong with tuning. It's on all of the major productions out there. It's when you learn how to harness it in a responsible way that you can really elevate your performance. I hope this helps clear the fog, and I'm excited that you're through this module because I know that you're gonna have your biggest breakthrough moment, and I can't wait to hear what you've produced. But this isn't the end. Let's keep moving. All right, so let's talk about timing. Timing with vocals is an interesting relationship because with vocals, there really is no rules when it comes to timing. But timing has a huge emotional impact on the vibe of your vocal performance. Some phrases are gonna drag and cause kind of a laid back feel. Some will push to create urgency. Some will be really syncopated and on beat. So it's important to know that this is not just about snapping your vocals to the grid. It's about rhythmic honesty, so your vocals support the groove of the track instead of fighting against it. So here's the principle. If it feels right, it is right. Don't touch it if it doesn't need touching. But if something makes you kind of flinch or it pulls you out of the moment, that's something to zoom in on and take a look at and see if it might be a timing problem. So you're not editing to the click, you're editing for feel. This step might seem subtle, but you don't want to skip it because this is what's going to make a good performance turn into a legendary performance. Because if your vocal does not sit within the pocket of the production, the whole song can feel off. So we're going to walk through different timing scenarios with a vocal, and I'm going to show you different ways to do timing because there's no one size fits all when it comes to timing vocals. It's very dependent on the performance, the song, but we will jump into a session and we'll break down what to look for and how to tackle the problem. All right, so let's jump into the DAW and do a groove listening pass, and we'll see when we need to stretch, cut, shift, or maybe just leave the thing alone. Let's go. So you can get really granular with timing in Melodyne. You have 3 different tools to use. You have your general time tool, which just stretches the beginning or the end of a note. You have your time handle tool, which allows you to put nodes within a note, and then you can just stretch the timing of that particular section within the note, which is really good for long sustaining notes or blobs that may have multiple words within it. And then you have your attack speed tool, which affects the beginning of the note. So if you're a little late on a note, you can use this just to ramp into that note faster and create a little more urgency, or you can make a note feel a little more laid back by pulling it back. So one thing to note with Melodyne is that all the blobs are interconnected. So if I move the timing of one blob, it's going to affect the timing of the blob next to it. Melodyne leaves clues on where it believes the start of notes are, and that's with these little red lines right here. And then to adjust the grid of your session, there's a little note icon up here, and if you click on that down arrow, you can choose what grid lines you want to appear. Now, you could just start to go in and adjust the lines to be on the grid. However, you might get varying results with this. It might make your performance feel a little robotic, but we'll give it a shot. All right, let's check that out.
Your hair it rolls like the golden hills. Your hair it rolls like the golden hills.
It actually feels pretty good. Let's try the time handle tool here on this rolls.
Your hair it rolls.
I feel like these 3 nodes right here could be pushed just a little bit.
Your hair it rolls like the golden hills.
Listen one more time.
Your hair it rolls like the golden hills. Your hair it rolls like the golden hills.
And I almost feel like using this attack speed tool on this note right here, the golden hills. I almost feel like making that drag a little bit. Let's hear how that sounds.
Your hair it rolls like the golden.
Compared to,
Your hair it rolls like the golden.
yeah, because I feel like when I say golden, it's a little hard to the ear and I want to soften that up, and that's what that attack tool can do. So I like this a lot better. Again, listen one more time.
Your hair it rolls like the golden.
Compared to the original.
Your hair it rolls like the golden.
Let's move on to the next section and see how that sounds. And again, you're going to want to time against a backing track. So you will have to go into your session and highlight the area you want to cycle through. Otherwise, you won't get the instrumentation.
And your words pour out like wine.
So, I mean, that feels fine. But again, we can just try to go in and see what happens if we just push these little red lines closer to the beat. This is interesting because it's right in between the 30-second notes. I'm not exactly sure if I was rushing or what. So we'll just try it out and see what happens. I'm going to assume that's supposed to be in the middle there. And I normally wouldn't go through and adjust every single red line, but I'm doing this for demonstration purposes right now. All right, let's listen.
And your words pour out like wine.
That sounds pretty good actually, except for this right here is a little off.
And your words pour out like.
This right here probably needs to be in that little middle area. This felt a little bit rushed.
And your words pour out like wine.
Feels a little bit late. As you can see, this little red line, even though it shows it's on beat, you can see I'm hitting the note right here in the middle, and that's what's making it feel like it's dragging a little bit. If I try to stretch it right here, you can see I'm stretching this a lot. So this is where I might try to use the time handle tool. It may not be a large enough piece to be able to move. Yeah, it won't let me do it. All right, so the time handle tool is not working because this blob is too small. So I'm gonna try the attack speed tool instead and see if I can adjust the timing on that, see what that does.
And your words pour out like wine.
Still just a little bit off. I don't mind it being a little bit harsher, so maybe we can just pull this over a little bit and see what that does.
And your words pour out like wine.
Maybe just,
And your words pour out like wine.
I'm liking it better. Maybe I just need to pull this and make it a little bit more ahead of the beat.
And your words pour out like wine.
That's cool. So let's just listen to these two phrases before the timing. Let's check it out.
Your hair it rolls like the golden hills. And your words pour out like wine.
And then with the edits,
Your hair it rolls like the golden hills. And your words pour out like wine.
that feels very nice. I'm gonna do one more section just to help demonstrate more of how to attack timing. It's gonna be always want to be using our ears, but we can use these as little indicators. I'm gonna assume I'm falling in between these 30-second notes, just knowing that my performance wasn't really that off time. And again, I'm going through here and being kind of aggressive with the timing just for demonstration purposes. The amount of timing that you do is going to be up to you and what sounds good to you, but just be aware that you do run the risk of having your voice sound too perfect, which could work for certain genres, but for this particular song, it could be a little too much.
Well, I took a sip and lost all track of time, but I know now in this moment it's right.
That's not too bad. This part right here, it felt a little bit like it started too late. So I'm gonna make it rush a little bit more. Remember, rushing makes things feel more urgent. Falling behind makes things feel more laid back. So you can use that to your advantage to help infuse a little bit of extra emotion into the performance.
Well, I took a sip and lost all track of time, but I know now.
That felt too fast. I feel like this can go a little bit more. Let's try that.
Well, I took a sip and lost all track of time, but I know now this.
It feels late now. Maybe that right there.
Well, I took a sip and lost all track of time, but I know. Well, I took a sip and lost all track of time, but I.
That's getting there. This thing right here. And I might need to mess with the attack speed.
Well, I took a sip and lost all track of time, but I know now.
Okay, so yeah, that's feeling a little bit better. It just felt like I was starting way too late, and now it feels a little early, but there's still something in here that doesn't feel fully right. So let's just take a look. Maybe it's making the attack less here. See what happens.
Well, I took a sip and I lost all track of time, but I took a sip and I lost all track of time.
Gonna make this slow down a little bit. Let's hear that. Slow this down. Slow this down a little bit.
Well, I took a sip and I lost all track of time, but
have that go faster.
Well, I took a sip and I lost all track of time, but
All right, so this is what's interesting about timing relationships with vocals and any other instrument is that as I start to mess with how I come in on that section and I start to think, okay, that feels right there, it messes up the phrasing later on. So this is really where you have to use your ears and think to yourself, are you doing more harm than good? Because perfection isn't always the goal. All right, so let's listen to what this sounds like without the edits that I did.
well, I took a sip and I lost all track of time, but I know now in this moment it's right.
Yeah, after removing all that, I probably wouldn't touch anything except for this little section right here. I do feel like that is coming in a little late. So just making it to not feel as behind the beat would probably be the only thing I would actually touch. But let's listen to it again with the edits.
Well, I took a sip and I lost all track of time, but I know now in this moment it's right.
That actually feels pretty good. All right, so once more, we're gonna listen to this whole section without edits and then with edits, then wrap this up.
Your hair, it rolls like the golden hills, and your words pour out like wine. Well, I took a sip and I lost all track of time, but I know now in this moment it's right.
All right, and then with.
Your hair, it rolls like the golden hills, and your words pour out like wine. Well, I took a sip and I lost all track of time, but I know now in this moment it's right.
It's a subtle difference, but it does make it feel like the vocal's more stable, locked in, and confident. So think of tuning that way. Does your vocal feel more confident? Does it feel more robotic? Does it feel lazy? Does it feel too rushed? This is what timing is going to do and what it's going to fix. And again, use your ears, because as we realized over here, that even though these red lines were technically on the grid, it messed with the feel. So with understanding how time affects feel, use that to your advantage, and don't be afraid to have your markers off the beat. All right, so now that you've seen how to approach timing with intention, here is your action step. Listen to your vocal, do a groove pass. If you have a rhythmic anchor to listen against, use that. Otherwise, just use the click and or a rhythmic instrument. And then listen to the feel of your vocal. Does it feel like it's too urgent when it needs to sit back? Does it feel like it's sitting back too much? If it's syncopated, is it hitting on the rhythm, or is it all over the place and it doesn't feel like it's tight? Take note of these and then make your adjustments, and then listen back and make sure that you're not doing more harm than good. If you can listen back and you feel like you want to tap your foot and it just feels right, then it's right. Welcome to phase 4, the C in the voice framework, clarity through sweetening. You've done all the hard work, you've performed with presence, you've edited with emotion, and now it's time to put the final polishes on your vocal to make sure that it translates through the speakers and connects with your listener. This section is all about removing the final distractions as well as amplifying your voice. One of the challenges of modern recording is that everything is extremely clean. And this is a challenge when it comes to vocals. Right now, you might be feeling that with your performance, that it sounds good, but it still just feels a little flat. We're gonna treat processing like we record it into hardware to give that analog vibe to your vocal. Now, we're not gonna be overdoing the processing here. This is gonna be really gentle, broad strokes because we wanna leave room to breathe in the mixing stage. However, we wanna take control of the tone of our voice to make sure that we're happy with the way it sounds when it comes out of the speakers, so that way we maintain the integrity of the emotion and the story that we're trying to tell. So remember, we're not trying to chase perfection. We're just trying to protect the intention. So take your time and use your ears, and let's create some clarity with sweetening on purpose. At this point, your vocal should be giving you goosebumps. I mean, you've done the hard work. You've put in a performance that has emotion, intention, and clarity around it. And you might even be thinking to yourself, this is the best recorded version of my vocal I've ever heard. And that's the goal. But before we sign off on this vocal and send it off to mix, we got to do a couple more things to it to really elevate it and make sure that it connects with your listener and they think that you recorded this in $1 million studio. This stage is what I call subtractive sweetening. And it's just removing any mouth clicks, any pops, any plosives, any noise or room ambience that's in the recording itself that could be distracting once the vocal is up front in the mix. And thankfully, there's a lot of tools that makes this process very easy. However, we have to be gentle and mindful with how we use it, because if we overdo it, it will suck all the life and soul that we worked so hard to put into our vocal. So we're gonna jump into the DAW and go through some different scenarios where you may need to use subtractive sweetening. Now, your vocal may have some of these issues, all of these issues, or none of these issues. But if you don't hear it, don't fix it. We're gonna walk through the DAW. I'm gonna show you how to address these problems and how to use these tools effectively. All right, so we have our tuning and timing track now that is sounding really good, but now we're gonna take it to the next level by doing subtractive sweetening, and that's gonna be reducing any room ambience, weird noises, or anything that might be distracting in the vocal performance. So we're gonna wanna make sure that we bounce out or commit the vocal with Melodyne in it and bring that into the subtractive sweetening lane. The common things we're gonna be looking for in subtractive sweetening is gonna be removing the room ambience, as well as any mouth noises, clicks, pops, plosives, and we can do that all using RX Suite. The RX plugins, in my opinion, are the best plugins for this job, and it's a worthy investment into your vocal production toolkit. However, with these tools, you can easily overdo it and suck the life out of your performance. So this is gonna show you how to use this responsibly and get the results that you want. So the first thing that we're gonna tackle is gonna be room ambience. Room ambience is something that we all deal with. And with these plugins, when you use it, you can actually get away with recording in a spot that doesn't really have any treatment. This will help reduce all of that boxy reflection, that splatty reflection that can just make your vocal feel really unpolished and a little harsh to the ears. You can really hear that in my performance. So let's take a listen.
Beautiful, my love. This garden's enclosed, but outside its gates, I'll wait for you.
Very splatty, unflattering. So the first thing that we're gonna do is pull up RX voice denoise, and I'm gonna use this to gently remove some of that room ambience. It's a really simple plugin to use. You really have two knobs, threshold and reduction. There's also a learn function, which I would recommend not using because it generally overdoes it. And then adaptive mode, which I would just select on, optimize for music, and then filter type gentle. Here's what it would sound like if we overcook it.
Beautiful, my love. Beautiful, my love. This garden's enclosed, but outside its gates, I'll wait for.
Again, without it.
Beautiful, my love.
So it's doing the job of removing the ambience, but the problem is now it's also affecting the voice. It's clamping down on the voice. The voice has less dynamics. It's taking out the life. So we have to be very careful of how we approach using these tools, because again, it's all about maintaining the emotion, the breath, the life in your performance. All right, so I'm just gonna bring the reduction down to about halfway. And I'm gonna pull the threshold down until I feel like the plugin is not pushing back against my vocal performance.
Beautiful, my love. This garden's enclosed, but outside its gates, I'll wait for your beauty, my love. For your beauty, my love.
The big places to listen to for is gonna be in breaths, consonances. That's where this thing starts to really clamp down. And that's where the excitement and the articulation of your voice lies. So we don't want it to touch that at all. So if you are in doubt, always just go down one more notch. It's totally fine. Now we're gonna go up to the reduction. I'm gonna pull this all the way up, and then I'm just gonna start sliding it down and see what I can get away with without affecting the vocal.
Beautiful, my love. This garden's enclosed, but outside its gates, I'll wait for your beauty, my love. For your beauty, my love.
Where we're at.
Beautiful, my love. This garden's enclosed, but outside its gates I'll wait for your beauty, my love.
Feels like it's pushing back just a little bit, so I'm gonna just tap the threshold down 1, and that should be good. Now, this is very subtle processing. We want to be gentle with voice denoise because again, we are setting up the signal to then go into RX's D reverb. And this is now going to do a lot less lifting because we already cleaned up a bit using RX voice denoise. Now, RX D reverb is more feature rich. Again, you have your reduction level here, and then you have different bands for different parts of the vocal. You have your high frequency, mid-high frequency, low mids and lows, the tail length, essentially what to process, and then artifact smoothing, which helps reduce some of the noise that could be introduced into the vocal. And then enhanced dry signal, we're gonna leave off because I feel like that kind of puts a compressor or limiter on the vocal, in which we do not wanna do. And so we're just gonna listen to what this is doing to the vocal right now.
Beautiful, my love. This garden's enclosed, but
So here I way overdo it. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to put all these at unity, which you can hold Option and click, and I'll put it at unity. Let's put this at unity, which is 9, and tail length is 1. Now I'm gonna bring down the reduction until I stop hearing the artifacts.
Beautiful, my love. This garden's enclosed, but outside its gates I'll wait for your beauty, my love. For your beauty, my love. Beautiful, my love. This garden's enclosed, but
Now let's check it against the quiet part just to make sure we're not cutting out the vocal there.
and I am here offering my entire life. And I am where I get to be your husband and you get to be my wife.
So it is important to go to quiet parts too with noise reduction because we also want to ensure that we are not having the threshold high enough to where it starts to cut out the vocal. All right, so that feels good. Now I'm going to start messing with the low, low mid, and high. The high is one that we're going to want to avoid because again, the consonants and the T's and all those things. But the low and low mids, we probably can get a little bit more aggressive with. So let's try it out.
And now the dawn breaks and the shadows flee away. You are beautiful, my love.
That high mid is definitely a little grating on the ears.
And now the dawn breaks and the shadows flee away. You are beautiful, my love. This garden's enclosed, but outside its gates I'll wait for you.
All right, so that's feeling pretty good. I'm not hearing it push back. Again, gentle movements. If you're hearing anything, always back off. Let's hear without the processing.
And now the dawn breaks and the shadows flee away. You are beautiful, my.
And now with the processing.
And now the dawn breaks and the shadows flee away. You are beautiful, my love. This garden's enclosed, but outside its gates I'll wait for you.
All right, so there you hear it. The reverb now is a lot less. The vocal is more focused and just a cleaner overall performance. The next thing I'm gonna jump into is just the mouth declick. This one's very forgiving. I would just play it.
And now the dawn breaks and the shadows flee away. You are beautiful, my love.
I found with this, you can pretty much do default settings, but if you wanted to skew it a little bit higher, make it a little wider to get more clicks, and then you can listen to what it's doing. Now, if you are hearing little clicks, pops, things in the audio, you can use these other modules to just run a global effect on the vocal. And if it's minor, this should work. Otherwise, you will have to go into the standalone editor and then use these modules, and you can go and fine tune by selecting spots and then only processing those spots. That is more advanced. And if you've been following this process, you most likely will not have to do that. So what I'm showing you here really is the 80-20 principle of subtractive sweetening and cleanup. Okay, let's listen to this against the track and see the difference that it's making.
And now the dawn breaks and the shadows flee away. You are beautiful, my love.
without.
And now the dawn breaks and the shadows flee away. You are beautiful, my love.
Okay, one more time with.
And now the dawn breaks and the shadows flee away. You are beautiful, my love.
All right, so what I'm hearing is it just has a little bit more focus. There's less bad air around the performance itself, which is gonna really help once we start enhancing with compression, EQ. So this is feeling really good to me, and it's preserving the natural rawness of the vocal. Now, there are a couple of resonances or peaks or things that pop out in the vocal that I can't fix with removing reverb. So I'm gonna use another tool that, in my opinion, is worth its weight in gold, and that is Soothe 2. This is the factory default preset, and this thing will adaptively go in and reduce resonances, and you're gonna hear the difference that it makes. There's some jaggedness still in the vocal, and this is gonna really smooth it out or soothe it and give you that feeling like you did record this in a world-class studio. Check this out.
Beautiful, my love. There's gardens enclosed, but outside its gates I'll wait for you.
And without it,
Beautiful, my love. There's gardens enclosed, but outside its gates I'll wait for you.
yeah, it just smooths out the vocal. But again, this one's very easy to overdo, but the factory default preset is money every single time. And again, if you're not sure, always dial back. All right, so again, we removed some of the room ambience gently with voice denoise, and then we ran it into the RXD reverb. So this has to do less lifting, but it's a little bit more powerful. And then into mouth declick to remove any kind of mouth sounds that will inherently be in your recording. And then I'm running it into Soothe 2. Let's listen to this in the context of the song.
Beautiful, my love. There's gardens enclosed, but outside its gates I'll wait. My love, beautiful, my love. There's gardens enclosed, but outside its gates I'll wait. Beautiful, my love. There's gardens enclosed, but outside its gates I'll wait for you.
That is subtractive sweetening. It really is removing all the junk to bring out the performance of your vocals. And we haven't even touched it yet with EQ, compression, saturation, nothing. This is a raw vocal take that still preserves the emotion, the rawness, and all the feel of your performance. So once your vocal is clean, emotionally and technically, we get to move into the final sweetening process, which is gonna really elevate your vocal and make sure that it's coming out of the speakers the way that you hear it in your head. Let's get started. At this stage, your vocal is ready to go. But we're gonna take one last step to put a final polish on it to make sure your vocal is set up for maximum impact. One of the challenges with modern recording is that everything is very clean and pristine, but that sacrifices vibe, especially when it comes to vocals. So in this module, we're gonna jump into the DAW, and I'm gonna show you some tips and tricks to sweeten up your voice so it sounds more natural and pleasing in the way that you expect it to hear coming out of the speakers. And the reason why I wanna show you how to do subtle tone shaping in your edit is because we've worked so hard to infuse the emotion and the story into your vocal that now we wanna be able to sculpt that with the sound that you hear in your head. You may be hearing your vocal right now and it sounds great, but it still might feel a little thin, a little sterile, or it just doesn't have that vibe that you hear on your favorite records. And this isn't about mixing your voice. This really is about adding in character that traditionally would have been added in with an analog recording chain. So we're gonna take the liberty to add that in now. So when we deliver this vocal, it's gonna sound polished, professional, and full of life and energy. And as I demo this, you don't need to have the same tools that I'm using. It's gonna be the general idea of what the tools do. We'll walk through that so you know how to use them effectively. All right, let's jump into the session and check out subtle tone shaping. All right, so we are through all of the technical cleanup stuff. And now we're just gonna use some plugins to subtly shape the tone to get it to a place where we really feel good about how it sounds. This isn't about mixing the vocal. We wanna do really subtle adjustments and allow room for the mixer to do their job. Or if you're gonna mix it, you wanna be sure that you leave yourself margin to do more. When it comes to subtle tone shaping, we're gonna think of 4 different steps: EQ, compression, saturation, and reverb. Now you can use whatever tool you have at your disposal for this. This is all about creativity and is getting your vocal to really feel nice coming out of the speakers. But I would recommend using some kind of analog flavored EQ compressor, something that's going to impart a little bit of character. So it gives that same feeling like you tracked it through hardware. That's what we're trying to do, is just add a little bit of grain, a little bit of grit, a little bit of shape to the vocal, but again, not too much. It's going to be very, very gentle. So we're going to start with EQ, and I'm pulling up FabFilter Pro Q here because I want to be able to show you what you should be looking for when you're EQing your vocal. You don't need to have an EQ curve like this. This is not what we are doing. I want you to think of EQ in only 3 bands or 3 different places. We're going to have a high shelf. We're going to have a low shelf. And you have a mid band. That's it. And the way to think of these shelves is, if you want something a little bit brighter, put up the shelf. If the vocal is a little dark or bass heavy, hold on the shelf. And then if you have congestion or just feels a little claustrophobic, then we can take out a little bit of the mids. General rule of thumb, you want your high shelf to be anywhere from like 8K to 10K. Low shelf, pretty much anywhere up to about 100. And then your mid band in between that 240 to 500 range. And this EQ actually has analog component to it. So I'm going to turn that on, and we're going to listen to the vocal and just do some adjustments. Another thing too is to listen to the vocal at its loudest part. We want to adjust the plugins to when it's reacting the strongest to the signal.
I love its gardens enclosed, but outside its gates I'll wait for. I love.
Okay, so yeah, I'm not really hearing a whole lot in the vocal that I need to EQ. If you did need to EQ, I would say stick to about 1.5, 2 dB of boost or gain, just to be subtle and not overdo it. It's almost like the minute you start to hear what you're doing, back off. Now, the next thing that I want to put on would be a compressor, just to help level out the peaks, make the vocal sit a little bit better. There's all kinds of compressors out there. I'm just going to pull up a classic vocal compressor, the LA2A, and just get some gentle gain reduction happening on the highest peaks.
I love its gardens enclosed, but outside its gates I'll wait for. I love its gardens enclosed, but outside its gates I'll wait for. I love its gardens enclosed, but outside its gates I'll wait for. I love its gardens enclosed, but outside its gates I'll wait for.
All right, so that feels good to me. So what I'm listening for is, with compression, it's going to be front to back motion. So when you're listening, it feels like the vocal just pops out at you and it's all over the place. And the compressor will reduce that. So it feels like I'm sitting in one spot more. And that's what you want to be listening for. Again, 2 to 3 dB of compression at the loudest parts is what we're looking for. We're not looking to smash the vocal. We want to try to keep it pretty transparent. Another reason why I like to put the compressor after the EQ, because if I did any EQ curves, I would want the EQ signal to go into the compressor. So none of the things that I try to EQ out would affect the compressor. The next thing I'm going to do is try some saturation. And the way that I like to think of saturation is it's like a smoother, different from a compressor. The compressor is really like an automated volume control, while the saturator, I feel like it attacks the EQ more. So if there's some peaks in the EQ, it's going to shave that off and make it smoother, which could in turn make the vocal feel lighter, more airy, a little less claustrophobic. Let's try it out and see what happens. I'm going to use this Antares tube saturation just because it's super easy to use, and I'm only going to put a little bit on it.
I love its gardens enclosed, but outside its gates I'll wait for. I love its gardens enclosed, but outside its gates I'll wait for. I love its gardens enclosed, but
The reason why I'm turning it all the way up is because I want to hear what the saturation is doing, so that way I can back off to a place where it's subtle and I know kind of what it's already doing to the vocal at a destructive level, and then I know how to blend it in.
I love its gardens enclosed, but outside its gates I'll wait for. I love its gardens enclosed, but outside its gates I'll wait for. I love its gardens enclosed, but outside its I love this garden's enclosed, but outside its gates I'll wait for. I love this garden's enclosed, but outside its gates I'll wait for. I love this garden.
That feels nice. There's a little bit of hair on the vocal track now, so liking that. So let's just listen to this whole pass now with all of this in here.
The rain is over and is gone, and the time for singing has come.
And without.
The rain is over and is gone, and the time for singing has.
I feel like turning off this Omni tube is a little too hairy for me.
The rain is over and is gone, and the time singing has come. The rain is over and is gone. The rain is over and is gone, and the time for singing has come.
All right, so very subtle, but again, it's just adding a little bit more sheen to the vocal. It feels a little bit more like a record, but still like a raw performance. It doesn't feel like it's been run through processing. It just feels like it was recorded through some nice analog gear. And because we removed the room noise from the vocal is sitting in a very dry space. So we can add some reverb into the vocal just to give it a little bit more space and dimension, but this is totally optional. You're gonna wanna try to use something that's gonna be a short decay, like a room. I really like the Ocean Way Studios, though this plugin only works with Universal Audio hardware. This has a really great natural room sound that I think could work for this performance, being more of an organic stripped back performance. I'm gonna put it into reverb mode. I'm just gonna do a close mic, like I'm singing into the microphone itself here, and then to see how this sounds.
And the time for singing has come. Oh, now the dawn breaks and the shadows flee away. You are beautiful, my love. This garden's enclosed, but outside its gates I'll wait for your beauty, my love.
Yeah, I like that. See, it just really blends into the vocal performance. It makes the vocal feel like it's actually sitting in a space now instead of just a vacuum. And it does allow for more reverb or ambience or space to be added into it later. And it's not going to interfere with that. So let's listen to the whole vocal as it is in the context of the song.
The rain is over and is gone, and the time for singing has come. Oh, now the dawn breaks and the shadows flee away. You are beautiful, my love. This garden's enclosed, but outside its gates I'll wait for your beauty, my love.
And without.
The rain is over and is gone, and the time for singing has come. Oh, now the dawn breaks and the shadows flee away. You are beautiful, my love.
And again with.
The rain is over and is gone, and the time for singing has come. Oh, now the dawn breaks and the shadows flee away. You are.
All right. So this is subtle tone shape. This is where you get to use your creativity and try different things and shape your vocal and get it to sound where you just feel the performance. We're no longer cringing, but again, remember, it's all about subtleties. We're not trying to mangle the vocal. Everything should be where you could take it or leave it and just let it be natural and let the mixing engineer take over. But if you really want to paint the picture of where the vocal is supposed to go, this is where you do so. All right, so your action step is to go into your session, pull up an EQ, a compressor, a saturator, and a reverb, and start playing around with the tone of your vocal the way that I showed you in the tutorial. But remember, you got to be gentle and subtle with these effects. We're not trying to radically change the tone of our voice. We're just gently sweetening it up. A little will go a long way. And if you're not sure if it's helping, then don't do it. And I just want to stop and say, congratulations. You've gone through the emotional edit. You have a vocal now that is ready to connect with your audience and tell an amazing story. But we are not done yet. We still have one more stage to go through to ensure that our vocal hits all the right notes and is telling the right story. I'll see you in the next module. Welcome to the final phase, the E in the voice framework, emotional quality control. In this section, we're going to be asking ourselves one important question. Does this vocal align with our emotional North Star? You've crafted every part of your vocal with care, from the performance to the editing to the sweetening. And now it's time to take a step back and really listen to what we've created. In this module, you're going to learn how to trust your instincts without spiraling, as well as to know when good is good enough. We want to be able to have an objective listen to what we've done and fix anything that may be a distraction, but we also don't want to hyper focus in on our vocal and stop us from shipping it. So you're going to learn how to do a 3-listen test to double check what you've done to make sure that nothing's derailing the story. You're going to learn to listen in 3 different ways: emotionally, technically, and contextually. And when you are able to tick the boxes for all 3, you're going to know that your vocal is done. Now, this is the finish line. But the funny thing is, even though you did all this work, there's still going to be that little thing inside you telling you it's not good enough. This listen test will help ease those anxieties so you can move forward with confidence and release your song. Let's finish strong. All right, this is it. You've shaped your vocal, you've edited with feeling, but now you might be wondering, is it done? And this is where the 3-listen test comes in. And this is how we stop spiraling and start trusting, how we learn to take a step back and listen, not just as the artist, but as the listener, as the producer, and as the emotional guide. Because again, you don't need it to be perfect. You just need it to be honest. And you don't need to re-listen to the song 50,000 times. You really just need 3 clear perspectives: the emotional listener, the technical spot checker, and the contextual finisher. Each one's going to give you a different lens and help you to not self-sabotage at this crucial final moment. Together, they're going to help you know if your vocal's truly ready or if you do need to go back somewhere in the process and fix a few things. Now, I think this bears repeating. As an artist myself, it's easy to think that there's something else you could do to make it just a little bit better. And these lenses are going to help you see if there are things you can improve. But if you follow the steps laid out in this course, you should pass all 3 of these and you should be ready to ship this vocal. If you've rushed through it, this is kind of like your gatekeeper saying, hold on, let's keep this vocal in the editing session before we ship it out into the production. All right, so we're going to do the emotional listener test. And this is where we're going to put on some headphones, lay back, close your eyes, and just let the vocal sing to you. Don't have any instrumentation behind it. Just have the vocal soloed and raw. Does it have that feeling of your emotional North Star? Now, this might be difficult for you because you're still hearing your voice and without any context behind it, but try your best to not get overly critical here. Really listen to the feeling. I do find that it helps to take a break from the whole process for a few days, then come back with really fresh ears and then listen, and you tend to be a little bit more gracious to yourself after giving it a break. If you get through this and the vocal just feels right and it's really hitting your emotional North Star, then check this box off and let's move on to the technical spot checker. Now, the technical spot checker is where we're going to get a little bit more forensic on the vocal. What we're listening for is any additional clicks, any pops you may have missed. Is there any clipping in the vocal? Are there any weird double breaths from an edit? Do all the transitions feel smooth? You just want to make sure that you're not hearing any edits or anything that's pulling you out of the performance from a technical perspective. Now remember, if you're really listening and you're thinking, is this a technical problem I need to go fix? Then you probably don't need to fix it. Once you get into the mix stage and you have other instrumentation around your vocal, those little quiet issues that might be there are going to get buried and won't be heard. Now we want to put on the lens of the contextual finisher. Now this is where we put our vocal into the production that we were working in, or we put it against a backing track like an acoustic or a piano to hear it in context of the music. This is a lot of fun. I highly recommend exporting your vocal and doing the passive listening test that we've done in previous modules where you're going off and doing something else and letting the song play in the background. You really want to embody the listener and how they would experience your music. Most likely, they're not going to be listening to it intently like you have been. they'll be doing something else while they have it in the background. This is a great final gut check to know that your vocal is ready and you have completed the task. And if you're not checking all three boxes and something feels off, no worries. This is why we did the layered approach to the vocal edit. So it should be easy to go back and fix whatever it is you need to fix without having to redo everything. Now, depending on what you are fixing to address it, you may need to take whatever it is that you fixed and go upstream to make sure that you put it through all the same processing as that last vocal take. For example, let's say you hear a double breath from an edit. So you have to go into the comp stage and fix the edit to make sure you don't have that double breath. You're going to have to reconsolidate that take. Then you're going to have to import that take back into the tuning take and make sure that section itself is tuned, export that out, cut that section, and then paste that into your file. If you did any EQ, any of that kind of sweetening, make sure you're pasting it into that file first. So that way when you export it, you have the fix and everything stays consistent. But because we did this layered approach, it should be quick and it should be easy. And if nothing jumps out, it all feels honest, clear, and emotionally intact, then you are done. Congratulations. You made it through the emotional edit. You're hearing your vocals come out of your speakers in a way you've never heard before. You may have never thought possible, but it was possible. And now you have this framework that you can use repeatedly to continue to release amazing music that has a strong emotional center and it's going to connect with your listener. So your action step is to go through that 3 listen test worksheet. Make sure you're ticking off all those boxes. If it passes the test, then you're ready to share this with the world. Congratulations, you did it. You did it. You didn't just complete the course, you learned how to hear your voice differently. As you can see, this wasn't a course just about comping and tuning and how to edit a vocal. It was more about learning to listen to your voice, to allow yourself to be free in the recording process, to put your artist hat back on and learn how to emotionally and intuitively work with your voice in your home studio. And this is something most artists will never master. Now take a second and really sit with what that means. You've been on a journey and you've learned how to stop hiding behind perfectionism and start leading with emotion and truth. That's rare and it matters. And with this framework, you can continue to record emotionally powerful performances that are going to connect with your listener. So let's zoom out and take a look at what you've accomplished. You stopped recording with fear and started recording with presence. You spotted the emotional magic inside a messy take. You stopped tuning to make things right and started tuning to make them real. You built edits that sound like you. You found a way to finish without spiraling into doubt. That's not just technical confidence, that's artistic growth. And it's going to change everything about how you create. So from here, you've got options. You can start releasing music that sounds more like you than ever. You could help produce other artists and help show them the way. Or you can revisit this framework whenever you feel stuck and find your way back to emotional alignment. This isn't a checklist you completed. This is a rhythm you now own that's going to serve you project after project, song after song. And if this course shifted the way that you now hear your voice, please let me know. Reach out to me via email, find me on socials, and also make sure to share your work because you never know who is waiting to hear what you created. And my final thoughts here is you don't need to sound like anybody else. You never did. You have what it takes. With this process, you'll be more confident than ever to release more music that you're proud of, that you're going to want to share, and you know will connect with your listener. This was a major gift for me, and now it's a gift for you. So use it to make great music, go share it with the world, and remember, you're now an emotional editor, so let's go make some more magic. All right, so thank you for sticking around and going through emotional editing for singer-songwriters. I know that the voice framework is gonna have amazing breakthroughs for you and your music. Again, let me know in the comments below what has been your biggest aha moment. Make sure to share this with someone that could use it. And again, if you wanna go through and review this material, the best way to do that is go into the description below, click the link, and then sign up for free for the actual course material on a platform that has all the additional worksheets and practice files and some additional bonus videos. So again, thank you for watching this. I hope that this transforms the way that you approach your music so you can make more music, better music, and feel confident with your voice and share it with the world.